You tell me. Okay. All right. If I could get a motion that we only discuss those three items we went into closed session for. One item under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1, appointments to town manager, and two items under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A2, consideration of the acquisition, disposition of real property, Route 11, and project scale.
So moved.
Second.
And may I have a roll call for that, please?
Mr. East,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Dawson,
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff,
Aye.
Mr. Klontz,
Aye.
Mr. Reese.
Aye.
All right, now we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. That'll be led by Councilman Clark, followed by the invocation by Councilman East.
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you'd like to join us in prayer, please bow your head at this time. Heavenly Father, as we gather this evening, we thank you for your continued grace and mercy. We ask for your wisdom and guidance in all matters, and for your continued presence in our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
I'd like to welcome our guests in person and online. Thank you for being here. Modification to public session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we add one item to the agenda. It'll be new item 9, so before the consent agenda and after the public comment period, and that is the authorization to execute a purchase contract.
Second.
And a roll call for that, please.
Mr. East,
Aye.
Mr. Clark,
Aye.
Mr. Dawson,
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff,
Aye.
Mr. Klontz,
Aye.
Mr. Reese.
Aye.
Move to the presentation part of our meeting. So that's engineering update, lead inventory, streetlights, and I&I program. Mr. Scott Ost.
Actually, Scott
And-
has
okay.
assigned to Austin the primary role of making the presentation. And he is the backup. There are several items that you have listed, Mr. Mayor, and one in particular, this first one, the lead service line, is in fact the subject of the bond closing that is scheduled for next Thursday, that we had to advertise in a very unusual way because of a change in the state code that requires that there be a certain period of advertising but not exceed a certain number of days. So we wanted to prepare you all for that bond closing issue by making this presentation tonight, and then thought because your agenda was fairly light, we would touch on these other two topics that I know are of equal interest to you. So with that, Austin will start the presentation, and if you have questions, feel free to ask those after he kind of makes his comments on each of these items.
Good evening. The lead service line project is something that was brought to our attention through a funding source presented by DEH, Virginia Department of Health, under the EPA's guidance. It's a statewide awareness of identifying, inventorying, and then replacing the materials that connect between our water system and public residences. Whether it be lead, you can go ahead and go to the next slide. The goal of this is to first inventory and then to move to replacement. Inventorying based on the material, whether it be lead, copper, or galvanized steel. The project in and of itself are separated into two main categories. First, the inventory, and second, the replacement, with a $250,000 bundle package for the inventory, $95,000 being grant, $155,000 being loan. And for the replacement, $500,000 total package, $190,000 grant, $310 for loan. We're starting now, and I've sent out RFPs and gotten replies back, and are now under contract for the inventory portion. And we will move through all the steps that they have outlined through the VDH and the guidelines that they have for the funding, including starting with records analysis, because we know that lead was banned in 1986. We know that all home are 100% safe, according to our records. And that's the assumption that the EPA and the VDH has recommended. So we're going to start off with records analysis, moving to visual inspection, whether that be potholing, looking at the line itself or within the home, and then finally, the last step would be sampling. These are all processes, and there's a outline that was a part of the RFP with the engineering contract. What would you guys prefer? Do you want to hear all three projects in one bundle?
Well, I have a question on the line replacement. So the loan portion of that, is that, and I may have missed something or forgotten something, but is that a loan that we have to procure ourselves, or is already part of this in another way?
A part of it. It's part of the VDH bundle package, and I believe each of them, one of them is, I believe, 10, and one is 20-year loan, each at 1%.
The state determined how much of a grant versus a loan they would give to each Virginia locality. What Austin has shared with you is what VDH told us we had available. What you have as a subject of that bond closure next week is the $465,000, I think is the correct total, of loan. Now, we can choose to, after the bond closing, you could choose to pay that loan off early if you want, or have it for the period of time that the loan is given for. And there are two different time periods based upon whether it is, in fact, the loan portion for the actual inventory versus the second part, which we have not addressed, which is the actual replacement. And once the identification has occurred, we will then be allowed to use the $500,000, the grant as well as the loan, to do replacement of those lead lines. But the state has yet to determine how that would occur in the localities, because as a locality, we're not allowed to go on private property to replace lines. And candidly, what concerns me is you may get the permission of the owner of the property to replace that line, but that does nothing to what are probably the lead lines that are internal to the house.
Mm-hmm.
All you're doing is correcting the line from our main line into whatever is the proper location in that home. But we still don't have those guidelines. But in order for us to start really spending this money, we need to go ahead and consummate the approval of the grant as well as the loan and the package. You've already actually appropriated this money into your grant fund account, but we have to go through that bond closure next week in order to access the loan amounts that are here.
And this is completely separate from what we pursued from a federal standpoint.
Yes,
correct?
it's totally separate.
And if the federal money could be put towards this, or would have to be in addition to that?
If you're asking if we could use the ARPA money that we have to match,
No, the request that,
I think those are water line. Those are water main replacements. These are from the main to the house.
Okay.
So it's a different. I think
got
it's a different beast.
talking about the request that we
Yeah.
made through the congressman,
right,
those were in fact for our water mains.
okay,
And this is for,
just off the main to the house. If, realistically speaking, $500,000, how many lines does that replace from the main to a house?
We're unsure at this point. It kind of depends on what's left. Once they get through the record review, they do sampling, determine how many houses are actually there, and we will determine with VDH the best course of action to replace those lines.
but that's not going to solve the problem. We anticipate that there are going to be multiple appropriations over the years to address this problem.
That actually go into the home? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Over the years?
It's not designed to do that. It's
Oh.
designed to only do the lateral connection.
Right.
But we don't anticipate that the $500,000 would be anywhere near sufficient. And I think what the state is doing is taking some federal money try to allocate it throughout the state, see what happens in this inventory phase. Because there may be a lot of communities that have been awarded money that aren't going to even use the amount that's available for the inventory. And as I understand it, we can then transfer that money and make it a part. Let's say we only spend out of the $250,000, 200,000. Then the balance could be directed toward the replacement. But since the state has yet to decide how we're supposed to replace those lines on private property, we have some time, but this would be a multi-year program. I
Well,
cannot
that's
imagine.
what I was just trying to gauge. You know, you said the loans are 10-year and 20-year loans, I think, and so I was trying to, in my mind, is that 30 homes, you know, out of a community that you have a 20-year loan on, and then you're waiting 20 years to do it again, or you continue?
I think there's going to be continuous funding coming in a grant loan package for many years to come.
There'll be a lot of, I know this isn't for us to solve, but there's a lot of potential liability there, I would think.
That's part of the reason why we're waiting for the state to decide how to do it and what happens if a homeowner refuses to allow even a private contractor. Let's say if we had the opportunity to, through the state guidelines, hire someone to do this work and they would absorb the liability. We still have the issue of the homeowner having to be willing. And there's a lot that has yet to be determined, but what we do know is that it is critical that we begin to identify the order of magnitude of problem. And so that's what this first step is. And that's all that the consultant has been commissioned to do at this point.
So is this portion of the line that runs from, because the town can go to the meter, right? Because they've got an easement for that first however many feet. And then there's the meter to my house. So that's the section that we're talking about. Okay. That we're thinking that might be galvanized or copper or something like that due to the age of the homes. Okay. So that's why it's on, it's not on the easement that we have. Okay. All right.
And each property is different in terms of where that line is placed. We have some very strange arrangements, where lines may go behind a house to come in, which means that the length of that line to be replaced is going to be considerably different if in fact it has lead pipes. Somebody in some of the older parts of the town, their homes are much closer to the street, and those would be, we would think, less costly just because the length of the line would be shorter. So that inventory is critical to even begin trying to identify how much money is going to be needed in the future. But it clearly is a state-initiated program with both state and federal funding. It's not anything that they have asked you to participate in locally, with the exception of repaying the loan with a very, very low interest rate.
So I just for clarity, so you said the lead, the 250,000, the state's jumping off point is basically a house is built prior to a certain date, 1986. But then you have houses that are going to be, that have had those lines long since changed because, we're 50 years in now or something. So you have to identify those? Okay. And so that's going to fall on to your department to do that? The contract, okay. Just sound like a big task, huge task.
Are we going to get a nice database of all this information? Okay, good. I am too.
Okay. How do you want to move forward with the other parts? You want to do it all in one, or how would you prefer?
Let's take them one at a time if nobody cares.
That's fine.
Sounds good.
For the streetlights, the last time that we talked about the streetscape project, just a rough update for that. Do you want to give the update for the main project? I think at this point, we're still at addressed, hopefully, the last of VDOT's 100% comments. They are currently in review. We should be getting feedback from that. Once that's done, we can submit lighting introduction to the choices that have been presented. Since then, we have gotten in contact with various companies, local and throughout the US, and they were able to provide different quotes and different options. Here is one option, we have named option one. It is taking y'all's feedback from when we had discussed with you, this was what they recommended as a starting point. Much of this can be changed based on your opinion. And I believe it's also in the paper in front of you if you want to get a closer look, but key features would be a taller base. All the options are roughly the same height, and that's based on our actual height of buildings downtown. In addition, they all have the screening around the back of the luminaire that was specifically designed and recommended with our buildings in mind to prevent lights being directed directly into the windows of the building, still allowing the maximum amount of lighting of the road and sidewalks. In addition to, this one has the banner arm, flagpole staff, and then the angled overarching arm holding the luminaire that is bell-shaped there. The price for this light fixture is $7,861. That's per entire fixture. We'll move to option two. Option two is a similar height. There are a little bit of differences. The main purpose to get these options was just to see rough pricing for the light fixtures in general. This one has a shorter base, it has a more decorative elbow arch, the same luminaire structure, same pole structure, and with the banner arm also attached. This one also has an outlet attached to the top, so if we do any lighting, additional string lighting or event lighting that are temporary, we would have that accessible for us. These are all options that were included in the quote.
If I remember, is it in the plans? Is it 30 poles? 28.
But I'll let Austin tell you, we actually talked to the gentleman today that did the quotes for us. The 28 that was priced out was by our streetscape engineer, and it was based off of our current lighting configuration downtown. And the amount of area that each of those covers is much different than what these lights would cover. So we asked them to do a separate photometric study to figure out the number of lighting with using this structure is needed. So VDOT's recommendation was 28, but again, that's using our current structure, and we're waiting to figure out the number that we need using these lights. We do anticipate that number go down.
Those LED lights are so much brighter, especially if they're pointing down. They generate a lot more good light.
We do expect that number 28 to decrease.
You're probably still at either one of these options. You're talking $150,000, $200,000 range, and that's not covered by the VDOT money. So that's money that would have to be a capital improvement budget.
How many we end up with, yeah.
Also, to keep in mind that the 28 is including around the corners of the intersections, so not just on the straightaway, but a good amount on the corners. So we're looking at a hopefully significant decrease.
My only comment there, and I certainly, from a budgeting standpoint, a decrease is good, and I understand these lights are much better than the old incandescent or whatever they're called. But I would always err on the side of too many as opposed to not enough. Just because I think, good lighting is just, it's aesthetically pleasing, and I think very necessary. So.
I think we told you all previously that the county has indicated that they are willing to use whatever lighting we decide on in the downtown for their replacement of lighting in their couple, if not three, parking areas that they have in the downtown. And so we would be using whatever decision is made to go forward and make them aware of that, so they could likewise do some budgeting in the future, and you have at least one other parking lot that would need to be lit over time as well. And it's not necessarily something you would do all at one time, it would be phased.
I think they both look good, but I do think that having more outlets is better than fewer outlets. To take the Mr. East's point, I do think that that's something that seems like it adds a lot with, and would save our. If we wanted to do something, it's easier to have the plug right up there than having to run extension cords or whatever. So that's what I would encourage. I did see some in Wytheville that were actually very similar to this. And they looked really nice. Probably, although not with the very nice luminaire that you have, which is a word I know now. So.
I think we're looking for some feedback, consensus from the council as to which of these two options you would like us to proceed with.
I would go option one from my perspective.
I think I agree with Reese about the plug-in at the top.
So that's
It seems odd to me that option one is more expensive but doesn't have an outlet.
Oh, wait a minute. So where's that? So option one doesn't have an outlet? What is
No.
that?
Option 2 does.
But we can add it, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Almost everything on there is also customizable. So if there are attributes that you like from one, you can get that transferred to the other and vice versa.
I guess it must be the base is what makes option one cost more, having the larger base.
Option one with electrical outlets.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
That's what I'd say too.
I'm good with that too.
Do we need
Is it a,
the flag holder that faces back towards the buildings?
It's an option. It's something that if you ever wanted to use, you could, or we could not include this.
Could we get the banner arm on the other side?
Yes, that is another thing. You can do banner on both sides.
I think we just do banner. I mean, instead of if we don't think the flagpole is going to be useful, we should have the banner arms on both sides, because I think that is something we will use and will be nice to take advantage of.
How are they? Are they on one side now?
Right now, they're on one side.
Just the street
On the
side,
street,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
I was just thinking about flags going back towards the building. Seemed odd.
You don't want the flag sticking under the light, though. So.
I myself think the banner arm should at least be on the back, just because you get a truck come down to deliver and banner's gone. Seen it happen, that's why I said that. Next to the theater, so.
Is the decorative arch something that
You talking about on option two?
I think it's too busy. I don't like it.
I think the base is going to be more of the. You're going to get more of the, because that's more at eye level. So I think that you're going to get more of the bang for your buck, so to speak. If you're going to do one or the other, I think that'll be a break up the view. I'm using very important design terms right now. I hope you all know.
Do we have to make sure anything is okay with historic downtown standards with these?
we have discussed it. And it's something that after we get the plans back and got your feedback, that we're going to look into.
Okay.
Okay. Right, and I guess that's option one with plugins. Okay. Spencer.
You can go to the I&I project.
There we go.
We've spoken before in the past about I&I, which stands for inflow and infiltration. Spencer inflow and infiltration is something that we struggle with, any sewer system would struggle with. It adds a water rain flow into the sewer system that can cause a number of issues. Primarily, we also pay for all of the sewer that we output to be treated. And any rainwater is clean water, and we're essentially paying extra for them to treat clean water. So I&I is an issue that both impacts the maintenance of our system in addition to the cost that we pay on a monthly basis. As you can see, infiltration is actual deterioration of the piping and manholes. And inflow is incorrect channeling, often from stormwater that has been routed into the sewer system, whether it be from storm grates or gutters from homes as well. If you want to move to the next slide. To combat this, we've developed an overall strategy that we've begun with step 1 of flow metering the system. We sectioned off with the contractor into 11 different districts that is based on how our sewer system flows within the town. And we're able to stick a flow meter in each district and monitor the average flow and then peak flow during rain events. And this gave us essentially a number of where the problem areas are. So we're here to present that data and those findings that we found over the summer. The end result was the top 3 areas of concern when weighing in how much the volume is impacting our Peppers Ferry bill were Case Nut, the red mirror area there in the bottom left, the Bob White Boulevard section up towards Kreiser in the top right, the light red, and then the Dora Highway going along Peak Creek there. The top three sections that there were issues. So,
Is the third one the kind of the lighter blue?
the purple down at the bottom.
The purple. Okay. Okay.
Where there's more trees in all those areas.
What'd you say?
There's a lot of trees in all those areas.
Yes, there are. And it doesn't show it here on the map, but the Bob White Boulevard in the top right also extends all the way up Warren Spring and everything leaving from county in that area as well. So there's a large area that we're starting to develop. Moving on to step 2, which step 1 was the flow metering to figure out the size of the issue, and now step 2 is identifying each section where the issue is and how to fix it.
I'm sorry. How big was the difference? You said these were the standout sections, but was there a I'm just curious of how large of a, did you find like a rain event and it was like, oh my gosh, this was a crazy difference, or what? And were there other areas that you didn't see much difference in?
Every area had some significant item. Yes. You're not going to isolate, say, 2 million gallons out of one, 100,000 gallons out of another. Actually, every section we had issues. What we did was we took the 3 that really stood out for those rain events. There were, I think, 2 major rain events in that 3 months that gave us the data. Austin went back, took the data we got from the firm, correlated that with what we pay Pepper Ferry Regional Wastewater to treat. And what we did was we came up with the 3 top areas that would benefit the town the most and address it first. On those 3 top areas, do you, and you touched on it there, the cost associated, do you know what that is right off? Per area, the Case Knife areas are roughly around 150,000, while the Bob White Boulevard and Kreiser is about the same, 150, and the Dora Highway is roughly 125. But also that's keeping in mind that that is just identifying the issue. The actual replacement of that, similar to LSL, that service line cannot be identified for the cost of rehab until you identify the severity of it. I was, that was good information, but I was referring to, yes, yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I have that issue. Ms. Burcham will tell you that.
But yeah, so that was, how much are we paying, overpaying Pepperidge Ferry? I guess technically not overpaying, but paying as a result of this influx of water.
On an average day without the dry weather is around 1.6, 1.7 million gallons that we distribute every day. Yes. During a rain event, it jumps up between 6 and 7 million gallons.
Wow.
And it typically will gradually decrease over the next week. So if there's a rain event, it might be 6 to 7 that first day, and then 5 to 4, and so on for the days continuing afterwards. It's a significant number. The largest difference, or the largest surprise, was not necessarily that one section was worse than another, but that all of the sections were pretty severe.
So again, this is going to be a multi-year project.
Right. Is it more? Yeah, I'm glad you actually described the difference between infiltration and inflow, because honestly, I didn't exactly know what the difference was between the two myself. It seems to me that if we have inflow lines that are just tied directly into it, that would immediately be your highest culprit, would it not? As opposed to, I mean, I'm not saying that you couldn't have a large crack or leak somewhere else, but it just seems to me that an inflow would be, and maybe even, is that not easier to find an inflow point than it would be an infiltration point?
Absolutely, and that's why the first step in, when I say the first thing you got to do is identify the severity, that's because the first step, which is smoke testing, points out all those inflows. And points out because they're easier to fix, you just have earth and flow, they're a lot easier than replacing or slip lining a sewer line.
How much did it drop off, say, from like the immediate rain to like the following days after the rain, like seeping in versus pouring in?
Yes, so that is the drop, is that initial spike is often inflow plus infiltration, and then typically it would drop by 2 to 3 million gallons.
So we still have a huge infiltration problem there.
And is there anything we can? I mean, I know I was on the Dora Trail recently, and I saw there's the as the sewer line goes over to the pump station. I mean, some of those caps look like if the creek comes up, it'll just pour right in. Is that part of the project too? Okay.
Or a lot of times, it's not necessarily it falling into the top, but a lot of manholes have cracks.
And that the concrete deteriorates. Yeah.
Manholes, because of the structure of manholes, that it's not just a pipe, it actually gives more way for issues.
Okay.
And Austin has done an inventory of all of our manholes throughout the entire town, as he has developed these different, what I call layers or levels of GIS monitoring of what the town really has as its assets in the infrastructure area. This particular phase that we're in right now has been funded through the ARPA funds. We set aside $100,000. We've spent roughly half of that. Yeah, at this point, that is getting us the data that you see reflected here, and we're using the balance right now to investigate these 3 high priority areas that he mentioned that will then require, and we've already started doing some capital funding ideas in anticipation of a very significant presentation at the end of the calendar year by this financial firm that we've hired to come in and do some long-range planning for us. So that plan, when you see it, will show probably at least for the 6 years, if not the 10 years, an annual amount that would be set aside for the actual repair or replacement of these areas that we have the infiltration or the inflow. So again, as I was saying before, it's a multi-year project. We have not at this point had the opportunity to investigate what might be available for grant or loan financing of that. But we do know that we can certainly recover some of our cost if we could address particularly those areas that are sending a large flow to Pepper's Ferry for treatment on a monthly basis.
I'll say this is an awesome use of ARPA funds. If you think about it, in the scheme of things, the impact of pursuing this, you know, for the dollar amount spent is tremendous.
We will also be giving you a report before the end of the year on kind of what we spent the ARPA money on, the big things, the little things, the things that have made a difference, because I think we've been doing so much and talking about them in pieces as opposed to seeing a comprehensive picture of that. We're going to be doing that as well.
If we were to look at stuff on this particular instance, as far as like manhole covers or some of the inflow problems, does preventing it from going into this system create any problems with some of the federal regulations on stormwater runoff? Or does it create any? Okay.
No, not that, no, that we are aware of. It'll also be a case-by-case basis. Each inflow incident will have to be evaluated and of where to essentially what to do with the pit.
Okay.
But no, there are no obstructions as of this point.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move to the public hearing portion of.
Real quick, Shannon,
Yeah.
on a note while y'all are still in here, I keep thinking to ask on Gatewood, with the drought that we're in, are we at a critical point or, okay.
It's pretty low. I was up there a week or two ago, but yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Public hearing section. So first one that we have is ordinance 2023-15, replacing chapter 46 of the Town of Pulaski Code of Ordinances. If I could have the staff report for that, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Council. The town has received an updated FEMA map of the floodplain, flood zones within the town. But in order to implement that map, which will be effective January the 1st of next year, we also have to, or had to, look at our current ordinance as it related to floods and flood protection, and had to have that reviewed by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. And they have supplied a sample that they are sending out to all localities. We have reviewed that and determined that it's in our best interest to just totally replace the existing section 46 within the town code with that ordinance that was provided by the Department of Conservation and Recreation. So that's what you have before you. That is the subject of the public hearing, and hopefully the council will go ahead following that hearing and adopt the ordinance that will make that effective immediately. And then the new map will be effective, as I said earlier, on January the 1st.
Does council have any questions? Okay. Well, with that, I will open the public hearing. And if there's no discussion, close the public hearing, and then have any other questions. If not, if someone would like to make a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 2023-15, replacing chapter 46 of the Town of Pulaski Code of Ordinances.
Second.
And may I have a roll call for that, please, ma'am?
Mr. East?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Klontz?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
Next is ordinance 2023-16, adding the definition gas station or stations to section 11.2, case number 2023-ZA-005. May I have the staff report, please?
you, sir. Mr. Mayor, as the staff written report indicates, and you have heard and had discussion in subsequent or previous meetings about definitions or the lack of definitions or the need to clarify definitions within our zoning ordinance. The planner on our staff, Summer Bork, has identified a number of those that she is taking to the Planning Commission on a regular basis. The one before you tonight is the definition of a gas station, which was not and still is not clearly defined within our current zoning ordinance. And you have before you that definition, and I don't know that I need to read it to you, but it just clarifies what would be considered a gas station within the town, and then that staff report also tells you where gas stations, even though defined, are allowed in the various sections of the town, business districts, as well as light industrial. So it's located in B1, 2, and 3, and light industrial. And you will be coming back to you next month, the revised definition on medical clinics that has been a subject of some discussion as well, as we try to clarify and make sure that we have adequate definitions.
All right. Council have any questions on this one?
I do have one quick question. It says that they do not appear as special exceptions within the town zoning ordinances. It definitely seems like there's some, and what I would have thought were districts or zoning areas outside of what this is listed in here. So I'm curious how it would if we need to look at any of those specific areas, or if all of them are truly already in these districts.
Well, you have listed in front of you in the staff report where the zoning ordinance currently allows them.
Yes.
If the council is interested in having the planning commission look at the potential for inclusion in other districts, either by right or by special exception, you can certainly make that request of them.
I wasn't that. It was just the.
You mean the existing gas stations?
Yeah.
No, I think those are,
grandfathered in.
yeah.
No, this would be new stations or the, I guess, rehabilitation of a particular building or function to serve as a gas station. This would be the definition, and this would be the areas in which they could be located.
That's all.
All right.
I think you also probably know that if a use does not occur for a 2-year period, then it is no longer grandfathered and would have to meet whatever the current ordinance standards are. And I know we do have some older places that were gas stations at one time.
All right. Well, then with that, I will open the public hearing. And no one to speak, so we'll close the public hearing and then ask council to, if they have no questions, any more questions, if someone wants to make a.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 2023-16, adding the definition gas station to section 11.2.
And may I get a roll call for that, please?
Mr. East.
Aye.
Mr. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Dawson.
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff.
Aye.
Mr. Klontz.
Aye.
Mr. Reese.
Aye.
Next on the agenda is public comment. I have no public comment slips, so we'll move to the authorization of a purchase contract, if someone would like to make a motion.
One sec. Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the town manager to execute a contract for the purchase of tax map ID number 063-42-1, and that that purchase contract shall be pursuant to appropriate due diligence and other requirements.
Second.
And may I have a roll call for that, please?
Mr. East.
No.
Mr. Clark.
Aye.
Mr. Dawson.
Aye.
Mr. Ratliff.
Aye.
Mr. Klontz.
Aye.
Mr. Reese.
Aye.
Next is your consent agenda. We have a bunch of these. So,
We can approve them all at once, though.
Yeah.
can you do them all at once?
Lydia wanted to add one more, and I told her enough is enough.
Okay, so if someone would like to make a motion to accept the, let's see, October 17th, 2023 Town Council minutes, October 24th, 2023 Town Council minutes, October 24th, 2023 Town Council special meeting minutes, and October 27th, 2023 Town Council special meeting minutes.
So moved.
So that you don't have to say all that. In a second.
Second.
Good. And may I have a roll call, please?
Mr. East?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Mr. Dawson?
I'll abstain.
Mr. Ratliff?
Aye.
Mr. Cantz? Mr. Reese?
Aye.
And I apologize after the fact. I just saw on October 27th, the mark says absent, which is not accurate.
And myself as well, actually.
I think you.
Oh, you were absent out here?
Yeah,
But
you
you
weren't you weren't present during the roll call.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that you guys were in the Zoom.
Okay.
That you
I see
participated
it.
by Zoom or telephone,
Oh, do I see
whichever.
it? I do see it. Okay, thank you. I apologize.
Okay, we'll move to the council comment section. Mr. East,
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Clark,
Just want to say the Halloween trunk or treat was pretty awesome. So got to see everybody come out, have a good time. I think we're still eating on candy, you know. So, but it was good. It was a good time.
There's more candy out in the hallway.
Please no.
And that's much better than door to door. Much safer. I'm not a
Yeah.
parent, but I thought that was nice.
Mr. Dawson.
I'll just agree with those comments. I heard a lot of good comments from folks. You know, it seems like each year that event goes extremely well and is highly participated, and it's great to see that activity downtown. So,
Mr. Ratcliffe.
Yeah. I just want to thank Ms. Bertram and them, the staff for paving Main Street, Randolph. I've heard just people's great things. They loved it. And we're not through with the project, so I try to explain to them new sidewalks and everything in the near future. It's really going to look really good. So, but anyway, I've really positive feedback on that. Thank you for that. I know we're a little early for it, but Main Street anyway, but I appreciate it.
Mr. Klontz.
I just had one kind of question or thought this evening. It was on so the not exactly a walkway, but the area over Peak Creek in between or on near where the brewery will be going. We have all the bushes that are there. That I mean, there's not a rail to stop someone from going over. But I was curious of the thought of it being somewhere that someone could walk to see, because it's a beautiful area, but right now it's just shrubs that are. I mean, it prevents you from getting to the edge, which is probably a good thing. So if it were to not be there, we would probably have to have a guardrail of some sort. But it also may be something that was even more attractive if it was allowed to have people up to the edge to see.
Are you talking about behind the brewery location itself?
Yeah, that specific location, but I'm sure it could be extrapolated to some other.
The tenant, which is what we would have as an arrangement, has plans to put a fence there
Okay.
as part of his expense, not the grant expense that we have. And so I think a lot of that'll be handled, but if it needs to be
Well, it also
moved out in advance of that, we can certainly take a look.
Well, it would also extend even to behind where our parking lot is too. I mean, you have those little areas that are kind of built up in the stone, but
All the way up to Dalton.
yeah, all the
Yeah.
way pretty much.
Towards the Dalton is what he's speaking.
I guess the parking lot itself behind Dalton is paved and
Yeah, it's
and walled.
just I mean, like if you look at the walk area, not necessarily the walk area, but the alleyway behind West Main Street, and you can see fairly easily into the creek, into that, and on that other side where I'm referring to, it's not I mean, you really shouldn't be where you could see at that point of where the shrubbery is. I'm not saying something should be done. I was just curious if there was some ideas that could be done with it.
So I think he's
That's all.
saying take a look-see is what he wants you to do.
It's nice to know that he's having some plans with some fencing, man. I think it'd be really enhance that area even more. So
Mr. Reese?
I've got some, hopefully, some very nice thing to say. I wanted to thank Public Works and Ms. Bertram for trimming up the trees on Washington and Main Street that were sort of growing into the sidewalk. Though I was accused of sort of falling into them. But I think it really did enhance, and it made that event really great. And I know lots of people at the town worked really, really hard on that, and I wanted to thank them for all their hard work, because it really is a fantastic event. My kids loved it, and it's always great to see hundreds of people out in downtown, and it's so nice that there's now a couple businesses down there that can really benefit from that traffic, and hopefully that turns into a something that we do on a regular basis, because I think, especially once we get the new lighting and the new sidewalks, it's going to be really probably the best spot in the county to do something like that. I also wanted to say I went to the Peppers Ferry Wastewater Treatment Authority. What was it? Sulfate study presentation. Gosh, that's a lot of words. And it was a really interesting presentation. I learned a lot, and I've now learned that where that bad smell that comes from that you sometimes smell is just part of the normal process, and that everybody seems to be on the same page. All the various jurisdictions, they all seem to be working really well together. And James Hardy seems to feel like their concerns are being addressed, and that they're also doing their bit, and that there's going to be a new limit. There hadn't ever been a limit before on what kind of, in particular, it's what they call the sort of biological waste that goes down the system, not the inflow, not that kind of stuff. But there's going to be a percentage limit. And we're sort of the worst offender right now, but that doesn't mean that's always going to be that way. So they're going to apply that to every jurisdiction that feeds into Peppers Ferry. Right. Okay, so industrial too. So it's going to apply to everybody. And it's going to, I think, address the concerns of some folks. It looks like there is going to be some sewer line repairs, but far less than I think was expected. And what I took away from it mostly was it's a problem, but it can be handled, and also that everybody, after it sounds like a lot of meetings, some of them tense, are all on the same page and are all very happy to be working together and pulling in the same direction. And I also wanted to thank, I've been out to since in all this nice weather, I've been out to the new playgrounds and noticed that we need some new benches. And I ran into Nate Repass, our outdoor facilities coordinator, and he said, I have 5 in my office right now that I just got to get installed. And that's a little more complicated. Just like everything, we learned that, you don't think putting a bench in the ground is complicated, but you want it to be in the shade, and but you don't want it to kill the tree roots, but you don't want it to be too close so that the guys can mow. So there's a lot that goes into it. But I appreciate that it's on the list. It's being worked on, and just noticed how many people are out using our new outdoor facilities, and hopefully that's going to keep going. So thank you to everybody for all your hard work.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that you added a item 9 that we failed to address when we went directly to that long consent.
He did.
The purchase?
He did.
You added it, but then.
Yeah, he did.
We voted on it.
He voted on it. Yep.
Were you sleeping?
That's my fault, then, because I told
He's
her
the
I
one
didn't
that
think
told
you
me.
did it.
His mind's somewhere else.
Dozed off.
As I recall, you guys were talking.
I must have been talking right at the time. They must have been doing it right when that happened.
Miss Bertram, I cannot believe that we got something by you for once.
Well, I listened to my hearing. I learned my lesson.
I'm gonna go back and listen to the tape.
The only thing I have is also about the treat trail. It was amazing. We were out there the whole time, and it was, I had so much good feedback from people. They loved that. I hope it's a yearly thing. I hope we have to expand to another street, that we get so many businesses that we have to do that. It was really nice to see all these. I think we need to inform them that they need to bring more candy because there was like 1,600 kids, I think is what they've come up with. 330 some at my house afterwards, but still. So, but it was a great event, and I want to thank the staff that helped here working with Pulaski on Main, but I feel like we did a lot, and the town needs to be thanked on that specifically because it was an amazing event. Also, with the paving, I think that I've heard that we are going to have a Christmas parade go down Main Street now. I called Lynn the day that it was finished and said, go check it because we can have this. And it's very nice. And thank you for getting that done too. It's great. I love seeing progress, and there's lots happening, new stuff coming all the time. So let's just keep moving forward. Our eyes are in the front of our head to look forward and not back. So let's keep going forward. Thank you for my cheesy little thing. Manager's report. That's where we'll move next. So, Ms. Burcham.
Some of you have already stolen things from my list. I have to tell you an interesting thing about the trick-or-treat event, which I think clearly was enhanced significantly for two reasons. Number one, we closed the street so that parents could feel like their children could wander in the street without having to be tethered in any way. And secondly, we encouraged businesses that weren't located within that block to also participate. So we had tables of businesses who wanted to give out their candy and see the kids in their costumes and everything, and became a part of a downtown event, even though they might not have been located on either that street or an immediately adjacent street. And we've had some people who have called us afterwards and said, I didn't hear that I could have had a table there. I want to be asked to do it next year. So I think it definitely will be an enhanced event. And you're absolutely right, while it was a Pulaski on Main event, clearly the lion's share of the work was handled by your staff, who love to be involved in trick-or-treating. So that was, even with the cold weather, they were eager to be out there. The county has a contact that can identify how many people are in a particular area based upon cell phone coverage and cell phones. And so we were able to have them identify how many cell phones were in that one block for that period of time that the trick-or-treat event was occurring, and that number was 1,600. And so Mike Haskins, not to be deterred, because he told me it had to be several thousands of people, he extrapolated that 1,600 number and came to 2,200 based upon the number of children that he estimated were running back and forth without cell phones.
Yeah.
Obviously, some of them already had cell phones. So clearly you had at least 1,600 people verified, by a scientific method that participated, and that is definitely the largest number that anyone has seen at that event. And Mr. Radcliffe and the mayor, the Christmas parade will be back on Main Street, and we're excited about that, and they seem to be very excited to be able to return. And I think we're going to be able to still have parking on the street as the parade can go down the center area. So I expect that we'll have a lot more participants this year than we did last year. If you haven't driven on Washington, you need to go by and see the basketball court. It has been constructed, paved. It looks very, very nice. They do have to come back and do another bit of paving in order to mount the basketball goal that was received earlier this week. So that should be in place early next week, and then some fencing. We did sell and actually got the proceeds of the sale today, but we sold and closed on the second ARS house yesterday. And because the court was closed for a holiday, the deed could not be recorded. The couple that bought the house evidently arrived at the house with a trailer full of home items and couldn't go in because they technically didn't have the deed recorded. And I got a call that said, can we possibly give them a key? I said, absolutely. If they are that eager to move that home and we have 2 new residents, let them in. So that was an exciting day for us, and we will now enter into a contract for our 3rd ARS home. And hopefully, one at a time, we'll be bringing more residents to the town. Both ARS houses sold to people who did not live currently in the town, one in the county and this one from outside of the area. So we're
That's so
very
cool.
excited that that is working. I believe it was Mr. Radcliffe mentioned several meetings ago the fact that what I will call the invasive plants had taken over on Dora Highway adjacent to Peak Creek. That has been thoroughly scrubbed now. We had 55 individuals from the Corps at Virginia Tech come this last weekend and worked on that, and they had some 50 bags of materials as well as a truckload that were taken away. So I hope you, next time you visit that way, you'll see that that work has been done. And when we mentioned to the Friends of Peak Creek the fact that there appeared to be a repair that was needed on the Iron Bridge across Peak Creek, they immediately took charge and went and repaired that. So they are still very much engaged in trying to do whatever they can to keep that access available for all of us to enjoy. And it's my understanding that the MUM grant that you all authorized several meetings ago has been forwarded to DHCD for hopefully approval. We went through the preliminary application phase and were invited to file a full application, which was done last week. And so we are very hopeful that we'll hear something on that. It may be after the first of the year now, but certainly that is in the works. And I want to mention that Martin's Pharmacy did a very good deed for our employees. They arranged for a day here or morning here at Town Hall and made themselves available for just about any kind of shot that employees could get. And in spite of the fact that I got everything that you could get a shot for and still have a sore arm, I have this cold, and I apologize that my voice may be cracking some. And lastly, mentioning that we've had some grant loan issues. We did get a very nice surprise last week that the grant loan package that we had applied for the backwash tank that is needed at the filter plant, and we thought it would take us some years to be able to get that approved in our capital budget. We got the lion's share of the funds in the form of a grant. We'll be bringing that forward to you for appropriation probably at your next regular meeting, and a very small part, a loan package. So we're finally tipping the scales a little bit and getting more grant money than loan money, given the needs that we have. So we continue to do major repairs at our filter plant, and many of those are being covered by these various grants and the ARPA money that we've had coming to us. So we've been busy, and we continue to be busy, and I would tell you again that the only reason why we're able to do as much as we do is that you have a very dedicated staff that's interested in seeing that this town moves to the future and that it be a much brighter one. So thank you again for the support that you all have provided to our different issues. And I know at times it feels like every time you have a meeting, we have another appropriation grant, another appropriation or a grant, but all of that is going to work well for the town in the future.
I have a question. Were you done? I'm sorry. Ms. Burcham, were you finished?
I did want to just mention to you all that I had Olivia put in front of you this declaration of a local emergency that was provided to me about 5:10 this evening by the county administrator. The governor yesterday declared the entire state an emergency based upon the drought and the susceptibility for forest fires and wildfires and that kind of thing, and instituted the limited burning requirements. In checking our code, again, in the last few minutes before the meeting started, it appears that according to our code, the fire chief can declare a similar emergency. But we will certainly move forward for a formal declaration if that is what is needed. But I think Olivia is prepared to, with the proper wording, post something on the town's Facebook page. And clearly the county has made it known that they are making a similar declaration. The fact that it speaks to all of the lands within the county certainly covers the town, but I think it would be appropriate for the town to take some official action, and I believe, but subject to talking with the town attorney, and we haven't had a chance to do that, that something from the fire department, fire chief may be sufficient at this time. But just know, don't burn, and there is obviously a penalty if we find out that someone has violated the code. And interestingly, while I was talking to the fire chief, about 5:10, 5:15, his pager went off, and it was for a burning that was occurring in the county. So it is something very, very serious that we all need to be concerned about. And I finish now, Mr. Eads.
So, thank you. I was just going to say, you every week or every couple weeks when we're here, we go through all of these happenings within, things that are going on somewhat behind the scenes. And I was just curious as I sat here, a lot of this information, I feel like unless you watch a council meeting, it may not be readily available to the public, but there's a lot of good stuff going on in our town. And my question is that something that we could locate on our website that's easily accessible and just kind of give a little blurb, a little detail of what we're doing, with the housing, with the with the number of other things, the development on Main Street, some of the renovations taking place there. Just one-stop shopping, if you will, where we can brag on ourselves, because there's a lot going on that I don't think that is readily available to folks.
We have been fortunate that the print media always seems to cover our meetings and do an excellent job. In fact, I feel like they must be running a tape, because sometimes when I go back to check the wording, it's exactly the same.
Oh, he's
That's
recording.
what you do, I know.
I understand Mr.
And
Williams.
for those who
Southwest Times.
read the newspaper, that's another vehicle. I will tell you that very few communities, in my estimation, take the time to do the communication. They're so busy getting it done that they don't really work on that. Certainly, if someone goes to our minutes, they can read the minutes online as well as on our website. But if there's a better way, I think we're certainly open to that. But then it sounds like you're bragging.
Well, no, it doesn't. I think you just let people know what you're doing, right? So my thought is, on a website, anytime, if I'm going to a town, I look it up online. And then you can look at different aspects of the town and what they're doing. And I feel people do exactly the same thing with us. So if we have all of the things that are ongoing within the town highlighted, I think it's just a positive. So
I really wish that our own residents cared about what was going on, because what I hear all the time is people who come to our community for the first time really are very, very impressed. And unsolicited tell us this, and they're not looking for a job or anything else. But I think that people who live here for so long have seen things a certain way, they don't see, nor do they listen sometimes when we say what we're doing. A good example, and I probably will shoot myself for saying this, is that we've not had the odor problem that we've had for years. For the last, how many months? 6, 8 months? Because we change vendors, and we change chemicals, and we change the measurement of those chemicals. But people are still on Facebook saying, every time they drive by a certain location, it's terrible. It's been there for 20 years. I don't think some people are taking the time to listen or to smell or whatever the sense is that they need, because they've gotten so used to things being a certain way. Or if we say we've done something, they tell us, well, why didn't you do it over here? You know, so it's a double-edged sword. But I understand what you're saying. And I'm not one to want to spend the time to say this is what we're doing, because I'm interested in getting it done. But maybe that's something, you know, that can be looked at for the future. Olivia's done a great job in putting more and more things on our website, as well as Facebook. And we have revamped the town's website, and it's much easier to read and much easier to locate things on. So if you haven't looked at it in a while, I would encourage you to go back, and she's certainly available to make any modifications that are suggested there. The county puts out a newsletter on a quarterly basis, and maybe something like that we could do on a monthly, quarterly basis and put it in our water bills in the future. I don't know. Certainly any ideas that you all have, we're more than happy to receive.
I'm thinking you've got the recording equipment right there, and your office is right down that hall. So each week you could just come in here for a manager's ponderings. And you
Manager's
could, and
musings.
we could post the video of what's going on to Facebook and the town website, and you can just keep everybody updated every week.
I think Brooks is volunteering to do it.
I think someone other than I ought to be the face of that video. But the idea of getting the information out, I clearly here, and we'll try to see if we can come up with a creative way. Maybe we'll have each council person have to do it on a rotation.
Or
Sure.
that.
Jeremy said he'd do it first.
Why not? Let's do it.
Alrighty. Only thing left is a reminder of our future council meeting. It's November 21st, 2023, closed session at 6. Open session starts at 7, as I have nothing else on the agenda.
You do have
I
another
do.
meeting. a special
Can I
meeting.
go ahead and do that one? I didn't know if I could do it. I was going to ask, but
You don't need to,
Nothing special, just a reminder that
a
you're
reminder,
having it.
yeah.
okay. That
We
will.
have that one at 5 o'clock on the
Okay.
16th.
So
And
we'll
the
have.
whole purpose of it at this point is to have the public hearing on the bond issuance for the lead inventory that you heard about earlier this evening.
Okay, so November 16th at 5 o'clock. And then the 21st at 6 and 7. So,
Need to mention anything regarding Friday?
I think we have to,
Oh, that's what you
Post
were
it.
asking. You're saying that was a different one. If you,
if
If
I
it-
do the announcement, the posting.
just one second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I
okay.
feel like I'm in a congressional hearing now.
Right.
Mr. Regas.
Now, in that case,
He's
you,
awake.
yeah, in that case, you would want to do it like we did last time, which was to adjourn,
Seen I do.
right? Because we haven't otherwise posted it,
No, but I was gonna do that tomorrow,
posting it tomorrow.
the 24-hour notice.
Oh, I see what you mean, a special meeting. Okay, just do it that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead, you
So you're
can
fine.
adjourn your.
okay.
Good.
All right. Now, as there's nothing else on the agenda, I declare this meeting adjourned.